hostess with the most, Janabelle, as always. So it is Wednesday. We are doing our non-horror movie of the week. And today what we're going to be talking about is Eddie and the Cruisers. Yes, we're talking about the first one. And just to give you guys a heads up, in case you guys want to watch, I will be doing the second one next week. Just to give you guys a little bit of time to watch it, if you like. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the first Eddie and the Cruisers movie. So this one came out in 1983, and it's got a terrific little cast. It's got Tom Berenger, Michael Petty. I totally said that wrong. I know, I'm sorry. Who actually plays Eddie himself. Joe Pantoliano and Ellen Barkin. So a nice little, like, terrific cast. There's, like, others in here as well. Just a terrific little cast, fun cast. So basically, Ellen Barkin's character, Maggie, who is like a news reporter, she's, kind of doing a story on Eddie and the Cruisers, and just kind of like, talking about, trying to find information on, like, this album that the band cut before Eddie died so many years before, like 18 years before. And by the way, I kind of like that they did, like, a weird number like that of so many years later, or, like, between, like, Eddie's death and, like, when this movie takes place, like, 18 years, instead of doing something like, 20 years later. Like, I don't know. I kind of like it's a weird number like that, because whatever. I'm weird like that. But anyway, so she's, like, trying to find out information. She's like, hey, I'm going to go to the record plant and, like, see if I could, like, hear, like, a sample of these tapes, but they were checked out, like, the day after Eddie had passed away, so, like, what happened to him, who has them, and then she even kind of starts to, like, bring up the question, like, well, do we really know if Eddie's alive, because, yeah, his car went over a bridge, but there was no body that was ever recovered, so it was kind of like one of those things, like, almost like an Elvis type thing of, like, oh, Eddie's still alive, and all this. But yeah, it's a fun little movie. It's kind of cool because it's almost like a mockumentary slash, like, musical mystery type thing of, like, what really happened to Eddie and everything. And I like it too because they kind of go from, like, present day, or what was then present day, back to like when Eddie was alive and everything, through, like, retelling of different, like, things of the band and stuff and how they started. And that's the other thing I like, that it was like, we're introduced to this band, Eddie and the Cruisers, obviously, and, it kind of shows how, like, they got their start and everything, how they actually ended up running into Tom Berenger's character, who literally was working at a bar that they were set to, like, play at, and Eddie really kind of had taken a liking to Tom Berenger's character because, he would always be carrying a book. It's usually a book of, like, poetry and stuff. And Eddie, who, was kind of like, hey, we need a little, like, I want something, more meaningful in our songs, not just something where kids can, like, bop their heads to and dance and everything. I want our songs to, like, speak to people, which I think was, like, really cool, because this was set at a time, like, in the past where it was, like, right before the Beatles and stuff. And, so, like, to have, like, music actually, like, mean something and actually have, like, a meaning to it and a story behind it, they were kind of showing this fictional band as being one of, like, the pioneers of that, of, like, okay, you've got this lead singer who is, like, ahead of his time and everything, and, like, wow, like, we're still trying to, like, catch up to him. So little things like that, it definitely created this nice little, like, mythos about this band, this fictional band, and really up to, like, them, getting a record deal, trying to, cut this record and everything, and to see the tensions among that, because, like, they work on this album, they're sharing some of it with the record execs and everything, and the, records execs are like, well, no, it's really, it's really not that great and stuff. You guys are just guys from Jersey and stuff. Yeah, I know a couple people from Jersey that made it huge. Bruce Springsteen, just saying. But anyway, but it's, you see the conflict. It's like, and then the guys in the band, after hearing this, are turning to Tom Berenger's character, being like, man, you're the one who messed this up. Like, you're not even part of the band. Like, what are you doing? We had it made, and now look at this. Like, you got our lead singer all over the place, totally not him, and he wants to do this like new stuff. What's wrong with the old stuff? Like blah blah blah. But yeah, so just like different things like that of like what you would actually see in a regular normal band, you know. So like, oh, it's just a terrific little thing. And Tom Berenger's character, because like obviously like, you know, they all were part of this band. They had this nice little like following and, you know, fans and everything. And it's kind of interesting because then they, you know, all these years later, you kind of see what like all these members of the still remaining alive, still re- let me reword that. The the remaining members who are alive in the present day, of like kind of like where they're at and everything, like the like Joe Pantoliano's character, who kind of was playing their like once again, I feel like this is one of those roles that he's kind of known for. One of like the three characters he always plays is like the agents to the band, or like the booking agent and stuff, and like the manager of the band. Very much kind of like how he was with like La Bamba and everything. That's what I mean. Like, okay, it seems like he plays like the same three characters, but he does it excellently. Like he, you know, we find out that, you know, later on he's this pretty much kind of like this washed up disc jockey basically, and he's almost like obsessed, just as obsessed about finding these tapes and everything to maybe make a little bit of money. Like he kind of is seeing it as like, hey, you know, I kind of messed up. I sold all the royalties and everything. I kind of want to just like my rightful due from my participation with the band, and, you know, really get the story out there. So he kind of like, part of the time you kind of feel like he is that like scuzzy, selfish, you know, like I said, washed up radio disc jockey who just is greedy and just wants to make a quick buck off of band that he really wasn't even a member of. He just managed. But of course, we kind of find out at the end of the movie that, like, okay, his intentions, like, yeah, he could have gone about them a little better, but, you know, at the end of the day, he wants to share the cruiser story. He wants, you know, like, everyone to kind of, like, get their just due, even including, like, Tom Berenger's character, who is now a high school, like, English teacher, literature teacher, and everything, which kind of makes sense, you know, that makes sense for a guy who started off being like, you know, like a mop boy at a bar to kind of getting into this band he really wasn't looking to be in, and then to transition after that of like, okay, well, that was just kind of like a little part of my life, and I'm kind of over it, it's out of my system, I need to be an adult and actually like make a decent living and be responsible. So but it's kind of fun that they did that to kind of show, like, you know, how the band got together, their rise to fame, and then afterwards, after like Eddie and everything, to kind of see where, like, you know, everyone has gone. And I know, like, one of the guys even who was in the band, he ended up becoming kind of like living off the name of Eddie and the Cruisers and kind of fronting his own little like rendition of the band. So he kind of like replaces everyone. He's the only original member, and they sing like all of the old Cruiser songs and everything. But and he's working at some like dingy little like restaurant slash theater type place. So you know, so like you always get that like one guy who's kind of always clinging on like the former success of his former band and everything. But yeah, and then, you know, like, I just things like that about this movie that they did so well, and like I said, like the mythos, the whole background, the whole story and everything, rise and fall of this band and its members, really cool and everything. And then what do you know, towards the end, so Maggie, you know, she's doing her little like news report and everything, and, you know, there's like a group of people kind of like standing outside this like display case of like this TV story. Yeah, back when, like, you know, when you would go buy a TV and it was literally like, you would go, instead of going to like Best Buy, you'd go to like your little mom and pop shop of like different appliances, usually like TVs and stuff, and they'd have all of the different models of TVs on like the same channel so you could watch them And she's doing her little news story, and you see all the people and everything watching. And then what do you know? In the TV screen, you see this long-haired, bearded guy who looks a little bit like Jesus, just saying, circa 1983. And you're like, oh my god, Eddie is alive! He's alive! He didn't die! So obviously, very much setting up a sequel. Although maybe they weren't really trying to set up a sequel. I like to think that they were just kind of showing that, like, hey, we always have these, like, theories that, like, certain musicians or artists or actors who have died, maybe they're still alive, but, we just don't know because they've totally altered their appearance and everything. But still, it's Hollywood. And interesting fact, though, because I was going to say, like, ooh, you got to do a sequel. But interesting fact about this one, Eddie and the Cruisers, it was a bomb when it was released, but, like, a lot of, like, other movies such as like Tremors and stuff, once it was like on like TV, like HBO and Showtime and all that, over the years, it kind of got like a cult following. So I think with like the and then I'm sure obviously with like VHS and everything, later, like as this was happening at that time, because I know 83, I think VHSs and everything and Betamax were kind of just coming along. But I know over like the course of the 80s, they became much more popular. And of course, they probably saw more video sales from this and then thought, hey, people are liking this. We're making more money now than when we were in theaters. Let's do a sequel. We've established that Eddie is alive, which I will obviously get into next week. But yeah, that's just my little take on the first Eddie and the Cruisers. And by the way, oh my god, amazing soundtrack. Like, I straight up really would love to get Eddie and the Cruiser soundtrack on vinyl. Not CD, but vinyl. It's one of those albums where it's like, I wouldn't mind getting on CD, Woody, but I would much rather my first copy of it be on vinyl. Like, perfect example, I've got Fast Times at Ridgemont High soundtrack on vinyl. I still have yet to get it on CD. I listen to the vinyl way more than I do the songs on my iPod. I'm just saying that I have from the soundtrack. But no, I would love it. I'm just saying, it's got a great soundtrack. You will have it stuck in your head for days, I swear. Probably the most familiar, the most popular song from this movie is The Dark Side. I'm sure all of you have come across it on the radio and stuff, so look it up right now. Pause me right now. Go in your little search bar. Look up Eddie and the Cruisers, The Dark Side. Probably within the first couple of notes, you'll be like, oh, I know that song. That is from this movie. So I'm just saying. But those are my thoughts, you guys, on Eddie and the Cruisers. Let me know what you think of the movie. Like I said, next week, Eddie and the Cruisers 2, if you guys want to go ahead and check that out. Till next time, as always, stay creepy, classy, and a little bit sassy.